one game away. Blow up. We're playing for something, man. We're playing for something. It's gotta mean something to you. It gotta mean something. Everything you got. Let's finish this.
Do it, fellas.
Let's go.
Let's do it, fellas.
Finish 2-3. 1, 2, 3. Finish.
I can't even think about all of the shit I did to fit in. Past hard to watch like a fucking scary movie. I'm always happy to meet somebody that never knew me. Change for the better, hope niggas are living through me. I put it all on the wax so the people can know the true me. Hard to remain sane when the people you love the most is what's causing the damn pain. Y'all beef by the same thing, we ain't playing the same game. It's all for my family. She the girl of your fucking dreams, but to me she a plain Jane. You dip in ball, man. I dump when them calls came. This that higher level thinking. I'm the type to jump the fuck off of the shit before it's sinking. Not here for no new shit. My game slider boosted. Ain't I don't have to prove shit. Rockstar fight the fool shit. My movie, this the new script. I want a life with no bullshit. Nigga, I know on these news clips. That's why I dap him and move quick. Won't be around when they move switch. Won't be around when they lose clips. Won't be around for they lose lips. Might be the reason they pull shit. Yeah.
Yesterday's price is not today's price, Ravens. What you thought you were going to have to pay him, you're going to have to pay him more.
Hey, yo, first off, shout out to all the beautiful black women out there. I just want y'all to know y'all appreciate it and y'all is needed. Now that we got that out the way, welcome to Kicking It with Saint. I am your host, the proprietor of this here conversation. Listen, welcome to the show. I'm Saint. This is week 13, the wrap up. We over. It's done. The next football game will be the beginning of week 14. Yo, it's this woman on YouTube named Jay with a fade. She bad as hell. But anyways, yo, Monday Night Football recap. The Buccaneers were at home. The Bucks were at home against the Saints. And what a game. You see, the funny thing about football is I was prepared to get on here. I already said that the Bucks were no longer my Super Bowl pick, but I was prepared to get on here and tell you why the Bucks is a bad team. The offense just can't get no. And just as fate would have it, you fuck around long enough and you gonna find out when it come to Thomas, Edward, Patrick, fucking Brady, the GOAT. You can throw the junior in there. Tom Brady is him. He been him for a long time. The Saints, listen, Andy Dalton didn't have a bad night. He had a good night. 20 of 28, I think it was, for 258 yards. I'm dead ass not looking at the stats, but I remember the stats. I think those was his numbers. Like 2 touchdown throws or a touchdown throw, no turnovers. It was a decent game for him. But if you watch the game, I don't even think you would have thought he threw for all those yards. And even if you, it's not even that you wouldn't have believed he threw for that. They didn't really capitalize off of most of those yards. They was ending with field goals. Like, they really didn't make, they put the pressure on Tampa Bay, but not really put the pressure on Tampa Bay to like, yo, we got to get something done now. Like, Tampa Bay never really was in a we have to score right now type of mode until the end of the game. And you think you can play perfect against Tom Brady the whole game and you just leave him just enough time, and it's enough time for him to not only take the lead but win the game? Like, yeah, it's probably a dub. And the Saints defense had a great night. The Saints have a lot of great pieces on the defense. DeMario Davis, Cam Jordan, and I don't see them trading. They could probably trade DeMario. I don't see them trading most of these dudes though. They have talent all around the defense. I mean, this is a game that it feel like Tampa Bay probably should have lost this game, but I don't deal in those. It feels like I deal in the what happened, and what happened was Tampa Bay ended up winning this game at the end, like most great football teams find ways to do. Or not even great football teams, great quarterbacks. I saw somebody tweet, even though I'm still permanently banned from Twitter. The thing about Brady is when you give him a game-winning drive, damn near every single time he is going to win the game. And that's probably what separate him. Not probably. That's really what separate Brady from everybody else. The dude really is the clutchest quarterback all the time. It don't matter how a game going. It don't matter how the game look. If you give this man an opportunity to correct all wrongs at the end of the game and win you the game, he gonna do that for you. And that's why this motherfucker's on another level. And that's why I keep telling people like, nah, bro, he shouldn't retire. Where the fuck is? But anyways, Chris Olave had a good game too. Chris Olave is starting to have I don't know if he's gonna win Rookie of the Year, but he having a good season. He definitely done been good since he came back from that injury. I don't know what's gonna happen with Michael Thomas for the Saints. I feel like he ain't played for them in damn near 2 years, except for like a game here or there. And this is an atrocious division. It just is what it is. The NFC South is a god-awful division. Every team in this division will probably be in the top 10 for draft picks this year. The Bucks could. It's not even a guarantee the Bucks will finish with a positive record, with over a 500 record, but they will win the division. Listen, the Bucks against a better team, a better offense. Let me put it like that. The Bucks probably lose this game. It's a great chance the Bucks lose this game. However, the Bucks ain't. The Saints ain't a good team. So when you have a game like this and you feel like you in control for the majority of the game, and you give break. And what's crazy is at the end of this game, when you had to make a play for, and I don't even think Andy Dalton played a bad game. Like I said, he made the throw, dude just didn't catch it. There was a couple drops in this game on both sides of the ball, but when you don't come through in those key moments to pick up the first down and end the game, kind of like what Joe Burrow was able to do last night against KC, or yesterday afternoon against KC. This is what happened. If Joe Burrow had given that ball back to KC probably win that game. Tampa Bay got the ball back and they won the game. So to me, I don't want to say it's a lack of aggressiveness on New Orleans. They was picking up third downs all night. The Bucks was struggling all night. But like I said, because New Orleans really struggled to score, they didn't really put that much pressure on Tampa Bay, who struggled to score also. But they knew we got Tom Brady. As long as we hang into the game long enough and give him a chance at the end, we can win this game. And listen, every win not going to be a blowout. You got to figure out ways to win these type of games. And in these type of games, I want Tom Brady. While this is no longer my Super Bowl pick, I think the Eagles is going to the Super Bowl because I just think I don't watch the Eagles every week. The Eagles to me look better every single week. I don't care what the scores say on their score sheet. They showing you every week we can find different ways to win. We are the most complete. I think the Eagles are the most complete team in football, and I don't even think it's close. Like, it's a lot of teams that we think is great for and you know what? The Bills is close. But I just don't think even the Bills offense, as good as they are, I don't think they got the pieces that Jalen Hurts and them boys got over there in Philly. To me, Philly is, they got it all on offense. They got it all on defense. They got a great special teams, great coaching. Like, bro, I'm telling you, the Philadelphia, and they young. They young with a lot of dudes already locked up. Obviously, you got to get Jalen Hurts locked up, and that's going to be a hell of a contract you about to have to give up for Jalen Hurts, because you don't have to pay him because, boy, what a fucking team. Philly, to me, is the best team in not only the NFC. They really, to me, look like the best team in the NFL. So that's the team I have going to the Super Bowl right now. They done finally changed my mind on taking me off of Tampa, because I just don't think if Tampa go up against Philly, for one, I don't think a defense is going to stop Philly from putting up at least 20-something points. I don't know if Tampa Bay can put up 20-plus points consistently. And when they play against the Eagles, as good as the defense might be at times for Tampa, and I think that's a good defense all around for Tampa, I also think that's a great defense over there for Philly. And I believe that the difference between the Philly offense going up against a good defense in Tampa and the Tampa offense going up against a good defense in Philly, yeah, Tampa got the GOAT, but them motherfuckers can't run the ball consistently. The Eagles can run the ball. They choose not to run the ball at times like they did yesterday against the Titans. And the Eagles also pass the ball. The Eagles got to be like a top 5 offense in football. Like the offense they have, the offense for the Bucks is as much as I trust Tom Brady, it's going to be very hard for, and plus the game will be in Philadelphia. The Eagles is going to have to lay a god level egg to blow a game against Tampa right now. To really blow a game against anybody. Because I think the Eagles offense, because it has so many different people, because one of the things about good offenses is sometimes you can slow it down because they might not have two great players. They might have a great player at the receiving position, a number 2, a number 3, and all that, a great quarterback, a decent run game. You can find ways to stop that. The Eagles have a number 1 receiver in A.J. Brown, a number 1 receiver in Devontae Smith. Some people think Devontae is a number 1 receiver. All I know is he produced like a number 1 when he given his opportunities. So you got 2 unbelievable number 1 receivers. Great running back core with Sanders and them boys. Great quarterback. Phenomenal offensive line. And a great defense. But we're not talking about it. I just think it's so hard to try to slow down Philly's offense. Like, you stop the run game, then they start beating you over the head with the passing because A.J. Brown cannot be guarded one-on-one. You think you slowing down the pass game, Jalen Hurts started to get loose on you with the run game, with him and the running backs. Like, to me, the Philadelphia Eagles can score in every single way imaginable. That's why I think that they are and plus they got a defense to go along with it. So Jalen Hurts never have to do too much because he has the pieces around him. The beauty in what the Eagles have is if Jalen Hurts just do his job and everybody else just does theirs, this is the best team in football because they have the talent at damn near every important position, and that's all it come to. Do your jobs when it matters the most, and we will win. That's what I think Philly is right now. And so when it comes to any other team taking on Philly in the NFC, I think they have to not only play their best and do their jobs, they got to have a perfect game and go above and beyond. Because I don't think it's another team in the NFC that's got as much talent playing at this type of level as Philly right now. It's kind of like when how I talked about the Cincinnati Bengals. When the Cincinnati Bengals is clicking, that's one of the toughest offenses to stop because they got Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, Joe Mixon, Samaje Perine, whoever the tight end is that can fill in and just get his numbers based off of the fact he running around with 3 top-notch receivers. You got Joe Burrow. I don't give a damn how shitty the offensive line is. If they wake up that day and decide we're not going to give up like 2 or 3 sacks, still a tough offense to try to stop. So, to me, that's the same thing I see with Philly, except for they have a way better offensive line. Way better offensive line. And so, not to mention, on top of them having a good offensive line, even when Jalen Hurts is pressured, he seemed to know where to go with the ball. He seemed to know how to he don't get happy feet and just take stupid sacks like Russell Wilson and some of these other dudes do. But obviously, Tampa Bay was my Super Bowl pick going into the season. And for a long time, even with them struggling, I still thought it was going to be my pick because I'm like, bro, it's Brady. I'm taking him over all these other quarterbacks in the NFC. He get to this playoffs, all you got to do is get him. But it's hard for me to pick against this Philadelphia. The year they won the Super Bowl with Nick Foles, I picked them to go to the Super Bowl and win it that year. Because that team was just so talented that if Nick Foles just did his job and everybody else did theirs, like Alshon Jeffrey was basically doing what A.J. Brown doing. And then they had everybody around him. I don't think their number 2 receiver was as good as Devontae Smith, but that's just even better. Zach Ertz was just as good, if not better, than Dallas Goedert. You had a good running back core. You had a good Nick Foles could still throw that thing. And that was their offense. So, and you had a good defense on the other side of the ball. So, I think this team for the Philadelphia Eagles resemble a lot of that team that won that Super Bowl against Brady. And so, while because of the injury that just happened in San Francisco to Jimmy G and the fact that I don't trust none of them quarterbacks in that quarterback room, even if they get Baker midfield. Y'all know how I feel about Buns midfield. It's no way that I'm picking San Francisco with that quarterback room over Philly. I'm not picking them over nobody in the playoffs. Like when the playoffs start, the first team that play against San Fran, I'm picking that team unless it's the Giants or possibly the Redskins. Apologies. Unless it's the Commanders, the Washington Commanders, or the It's crazy that I said that because I haven't said that in a while. I haven't made that mistake in a while. Or the Giants. I think not Tampa Bay. I don't know why I keep calling San Fran Tampa Bay. I think San Fran could beat one of those two teams, even though I would probably still pick those two. It's hard to pick with Daniel Jones or Washington because I don't like neither of them two quarterbacks, Heineke but I would take Heineke and Daniel Jones over probably anybody that San Fran started. So Brock Purdy is the dude who was starting for San Fran yesterday too when Jimmy G went down. But yeah, those is my thoughts on Tampa Bay. For the Saints, I don't know if the Saints have their first round draft pick this year, but if they do, the Saints need to just start trying to lose on purpose. Like, they really shouldn't be trying to compete in most of these games. They got to suck up that pride and try to get a top pick so they can get a quarterback. And I heard it's like, 3 or 4 quarterbacks that can be, or 5 quarterbacks are supposed to be like great quarterbacks or good potential, like high ceiling quarterbacks. To me, the Saints need to be trying to make that move. It's clear that the Texans realize that's what they need to do is get a quarterback in the building. The Saints have a good enough team. I just don't think the offense is good enough. And the offense is, now if they go out and get a quarterback and continuously run the same little trash offense they've been running the last couple of years, that's going to be tragic. But I think it's that time. The Saints is one of them teams that once they lost Drew Brees, they felt like they was good enough coaching-wise and defensive-wise to still win a Super Bowl. Clearly that is not the case, which is rarely the case for any team that don't have a franchise-level quarterback. But, it is what it is. Anyways, let's go through the games of Week 13 real quick. Green Bay was in Chicago taking on a team that is currently owned by Aaron Rodgers. And even though he didn't have an Aaron Rodgers type of game, he still found a way. They came back and won that game. A thing that I wanted to say about this game, what's my man's name? The cornerback, Jair Alexander. I like Jair Alexander. I think he's a great cornerback, one of the top cornerbacks in the NFL. When he locked in, he's a lockdown corner. The thing about Jair, though, because I hear people talk about Trayvon Diggs, and Trayvon Diggs did try to jump a route last night, and it ended up leading to him giving up a touchdown. However, Jair Alexander do that shit just as much as Trayvon Diggs. I don't know if people realize that. Jair Alexander giveth and he taketh away. And it happened yesterday. He bit on a route yesterday, and he do some like foolish biting on routes at times. It is not even just biting on routes. Sometimes Jair Alexander will think he finna get a pick, so he put himself in position to get that pick. Meaning, he will misplay a route, he'll stop playing a route, or whatever he got to do to get that pick. And once he realized he ain't getting that pick, he probably done got beat. That's one of his, I think that's the biggest problem with Jair Alexander, because he gave us some big plays yesterday because of that. But he also got a big play towards the back end of that game. And this was probably Justin Fields' best passing game to me. But I mean, towards the end of the game, where the Packers basically knew now he got to pass the ball, they did what just about every team do to Chicago and Justin Fields. They locked in. He threw 2 interceptions to end out the game, basically. And listen, he had a good game up until that point, but you got to be able to close out these games. Being able to pass the ball, coincidentally, is one of the ways you got to be able to close. And it's crazy because as good as they run in the beginning of games, you think they'd be able to run that great at the end of games. The problem is they get in leads on teams, but they not able to maintain the leads because of like little things that they do offensively. And this was, like I said, probably Justin Fields' best passing performance, but it didn't equate in a win once again. Tennessee was in Philadelphia in the A.J. Brown matchup, and he went off. 10-35 win for the Philadelphia Eagles. We just talked about him, so I'm not going to spend too much time talking about him again. Interesting thing about Tennessee, they cannot run the ball right now. So that is very interesting. They are struggling to run the ball, and if they can't run the ball, this team can't do shit. Washington was in the New Meadowlands taking on the New York Giants. That game ended in a draw, 20-20. Now, the Giants was up in this game, and Washington came back to tie the game. I really think Washington is like some people are saying that the Giants let one get away. I kind of think Washington let one get away because I think Washington is the better all-around team than the Giants, to be honest. They probably got better coaching for the Giants. But I just think Washington's team is better. That defensive line done woke up and starting to play like we think they supposed to play with that many great players on that defense. Like, do people realize how many players they got? Like Payne, Allen, Chase, Young, but it's a lot of great players on this defense. So yeah, I think Washington actually let one get away. I know that draw gonna be irritating as hell in them standings, but yeah, Jacksonville went to Detroit, and much like I imagined they wasn't gonna win this game, that's why I picked Detroit to win the game. They lose 14-40 because last week against the Ravens, even though they found a way to win that game, a game they should not have won, that didn't make me believe like, oh, this team done turned the corner. It's the Ravens, a team that for some reason is historically bad in the fourth quarter defensively. They get blasted 40-14. Now listen, I understand Detroit keep winning. They're not really beating great teams, but they still winning nonetheless, and in Detroit, that's a positive. Imagine what would happen if you don't get on an emotional roller coaster with Dan Campbell and actually go fire him and get an actual great head coach that could capitalize on what is going on in Detroit right now and take it to the next level. Because you fired a great head coach that actually had this team winning. This team still ain't even over 500. This team ain't even at 500. They still under 500 with these wins they done had the last couple weeks. So, to me, with the positive, and Amon-Ra St. Brown, the sun god, he is definitely a number one receiver like I've been saying. Imagine what would happen if you went out and actually got a good head coach. Like when you had Jen Caldwell and for some reason you decided to fire a motherfucker who had a great winning record. But imagine if you go get a good head coach, an actual motherfucker who know what he doing, and capitalize off of this success it seems to be having for Detroit. I'm just saying. And also, as decent as Detroit's defense done look the last couple of weeks, I definitely think Detroit is carried by its offense right now. And they done had, I think everybody was basically healthy yesterday for Detroit, which is why they was able to get back to putting up points. Aiden Hutchinson is an interesting watch. He having a decent rookie season. But keeping my eyes on Aiden. Denver, Baltimore. I'm the 9-10 win for Baltimore. Obviously, Lamar got hurt. I told you yesterday, I blame the Ravens for this. And it's really not. Something else is really irritating me. I got nothing against Snoop, the backup quarterback, Tyler Huntley. By no metric, if you look at the games, put all his starts together, would you consider that to be good? Put his starts together and the production he had in the starts and give it to Lamar Jackson, they would tell you that Lamar Jackson was not a good quarterback. But for some reason, because they had this wicked hate towards Lamar, they continue to push this narrative that Tyler Huntley is just as good as a starter as Lamar Jackson. That is just not true. I don't understand why that is a narrative that continues to be pushed. Well, yes, I do. But that is not a narrative people should be believing. Just watch the games. Tyler Huntley, just because he can run, does not make him nowhere near as good as Lamar Jackson. They literally lost every game except for one last year with Tyler Huntley starting over Lamar. When Lamar left, we were in the playoffs. After he left, we were no longer in the playoffs. What are we doing right now? So, yeah, y'all really irritating with that. But Pittsburgh was in Atlanta, and they win 19-16. Did not watch that game, but I predicted that Pittsburgh would win that game because Atlanta is just a weirdly bad team this year. They always been bad the last couple years, but they compete in damn near every game, and you can't really understand why. But yeah, they lose that game at home. The New York Jets went to Minnesota to take on. This really could have been one of the games of the week. To take on the Minnesota Vikings, and they lose 22-27. I told you yesterday, they had multiple chances at the end of this game to win this game. They had chances throughout the game to win this game, but I know a lot of people is hopping on that Mike White train right now. I'm not. I don't think Mike White, I think he's way better than Zach Wilson. With the production he's giving you is far better than what Zach Wilson is giving you. And he made some plays down the stretch yesterday. I do not see a starting quarterback when I see Mike White right now. But, whatever. They lose that game. The Jets defense remained, to me, one of the best defenses in football. And it'd be crazy if they actually had a competent offense. This team would be ridiculous. Cleveland went to Houston to take on the Houston Texans. Cleveland had a special team touchdown, 2 defensive touchdowns. They win 27-14. Deshaun Watson struggled as a lot of people expected he would in his first game back in like 700-something days of not playing football. I think he'll probably, struggle the rest of the season because he's trying to get his legs back under him. He's trying to get used to the NFL speed. But Deshaun Watson, I imagine, will be fine next year once he get a full training camp back under him. He might even struggle to start next year, but he'll be fine. I don't know if the contract will end up being worth it, but I know he'll be a good quarterback. Houston is just an unwatchable team. I mean, now one thing I didn't like about that Cleveland game is with Deshaun Watson now, that means you're not going to be running the ball as much as you probably should have ran it yesterday with Nick Chubb. So that's an interesting thing to watch. But Houston is unwatchable. They trying to get that number 1 pick is clear. I don't think benching Davis Mills really made any difference of, Kyle Allen. Both of them garbage. Both of them you can start either one and be safe with, knowing that you're going to lose that game. So that's an interesting move. Seattle was in L.A. L.A. Sean McVay done had Pete Carroll's number since he done touched down in L.A. And somehow L.A. was competitive in this game with Warford starting. But Seattle did end up winning this game down the stretch. They win 27-23. An important win in that division that they're competing against with the San Francisco, who picked up a win also yesterday at home taking on Miami. They win 17-33. They was able to stifle that offense of the Miami Dolphins. Tyreek Hill is still him. But I know people was waiting on Tua to have a down game so they could start shitting on him. I seen it all. Y'all really some unbelievable haters. KC was in Cincinnati to take on the Cincinnati Bengals, and Cincinnati does it again. Not going to spend too much time talking about this game. Obviously, I spent a lot of time talking about it yesterday. But Joe Burrow is now 3-0 against Pat Mahomes and the Chiefs. The Los Angeles Chargers were in Vegas taking on the Las Vegas Raiders, and the Raiders end up pulling that one out 27-20. Devontae Adams is inevitable. That is the best receiver in football. I know a lot of people looking at the Vegas and they're like, oh man, this offense done started doing what it's supposed to do. This might be a playoff. It won't be. Indy head to Dallas on Sunday Night Football and get blasted 19-54. They let the Dallas Cowboys go on a 33-0 run in the fourth quarter. Who knows if Jeff Saturday will be the coach of this team next year? I was thinking about that during the game. You really had a lot of things to think about once that fourth quarter got underway. We was a couple minutes into that. I don't really listen. I told you, not the biggest fan of how he got the job, but I think Jeff Saturday was always a dude who was going to eventually get a job like this. I don't think they should fire him, to be honest. I don't even think this is a desirable job. But what I think should happen is hire Jeff Saturday permanently to like a 2 or 3 year contract, and he better hire Reggie Wayne as his offensive coordinator. And then I want to see one of their old defensive players hired as the defensive coordinator. You do that, and then I'll be happy. But I realized something when I was watching the Colts last night. I talk about the Ravens receiving core and they skill position. The Colts receiving core and skill positions got to be worse than the Ravens. And I like Michael Pittman Jr., but this is not the offense for him because they do not utilize him at all. So the Colts look like a terrible, terrible team, especially offensively. The offensive line is god-awful. They just be letting dudes run through unblocked. And I understand they was playing against the Cowboys. That's a tough team to defend. To protect against. But they've been doing that against a lot of teams this year. Matt Ryan, like I said, to start the season was not going to be a good quarterback. I actually got to give Phillip Rivers credit because he got a receiving core just as bad, if not the same sorry-ass receiving core. Now, no disrespect to the skill positions on the Colts, but this is clearly a below-average receiving core, much like the Ravens. This receiving core, these skill positions are just not NFL. This is not a group of core that should be thought of as a Super Bowl contending team. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you take Lamar Jackson off the Ravens, you do not look at that receiving core, that skill position group, and say, Oh yeah, they got Mark Andrews, so that's definitely Mark Andrews drop passes, and he ain't clutch. This is not a Super Bowl receiving corps. Neither is the Colts receiving corps. And the thing that's helping the Ravens is they have a generational talent playing quarterback. The Colts don't have that anymore. So the Colts, and I think the Colts only got like 3 or 4 wins, so they probably in position to get a top draft pick also if they still have their draft pick, which I don't even think they do. But either way, tough loss for the Colts. Very interesting offseason ahead for them. They should already start planning for that. But with that being said, I appreciate y'all for joining me on another episode of Kicking It with Saint, the Week 13 wrap-up, basically. I will be back later on this week. It's going to be a long week, bro, because I'm pulling a lot of doubles this week. I'm trying to get a fat-ass check next week. You know what I'm saying? Like, way bigger than it normally is. So I'm going to have to put in, like, damn near 40 hours this week, bro. And the job that I work, you don't got to put in 40 hours to get good checks. But when you do put in a 40-hour type of week, like 38, 39, 40 hours, you're going to be blessed. Just know. So, with that being said, not looking forward to the week ahead at all. Especially with how early they got us getting up, coming to work right now. As a day source. Like, I'm day sorts. Bro, day sorts you would think would start around like, 1 something in the afternoon, which it usually was starting around it. Bro, we starting at damn near 11 in the fucking morning. It's ridiculous. But with that being said, I appreciate y'all for joining me on another episode of Kicking It with Saint. Tell somebody you fuck with them. Tell somebody you love them. Saint out.
I got the moves like hot sauce. Lil' mama taking the top off. I'm laying down getting topped off. After this, you know she getting knocked off. I know she loving the money, so I keep on thumbing and thumbing. She say she horny when she taking shots, so I keep them coming and coming. Now I'm putting dick in her tummy. Scoop her up like I'm raking her something. You would think shawty red track, the way that she running and running. You getting dumber and dumber. You out here chasing the bone. After she finished from giving me dome, the Uber is taking her home. Tight.